In part one, you watched a country collapse. The president fled by helicopter. Citizens banged pots and pans in the streets. There was money sitting in the banks, but people couldn't touch their own savings. But here's the real question. How does the richest country in the world fall this far? Here's the thing. Right before all of that, this same country was being called a miracle. The World Bank praised it. Other nations lined up to copy it. And then, in just a few years, that miracle turned into one of the worst collapses in history. Today, I'll show you how that miracle was built, why it fell apart, and why this country still can't seem to stop making the same mistake. In 1989, a new president took office, Carlos Menem. What he inherited was ruins. But then, he did something strange. The moment he took power, he reversed every promise he'd made on the campaign trail. And the policy his finance minister announced still sounds insane today. Starting today, our currency is worth exactly the same as the US dollar, by law. $1, 1 peso, no exceptions. Imagine that, the cash in your wallet suddenly declared by law to be worth exactly as much as the US dollar. People laughed it off. That's ridiculous. Nobody believed this promise would hold. And yet, it actually worked. A country where prices had been spiraling out of control suddenly went quiet. Supermarket price tags stopped changing every single day. People could put money in the bank without fearing it would lose its value by tomorrow. They could actually calculate their children's school fees. People could plan their futures again. People bought cars, signed leases on homes, and started talking about their children's futures. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just a few years earlier. Foreign brands started arriving one after another. McDonald's, Nike, Coca-Cola. Buenos Aires transformed almost overnight into the most modern city in South America. People said it themselves, we've finally become a developed nation. People started flying to Miami just to shop, buying 2 of everything, 1 to keep, 1 to give away. There was even a nickname for it, Buy Me Too. People from all over the world came just to see this country for themselves. Everyone said the same thing. This is the answer. Developing nations everywhere tried to copy the formula, but hidden inside that answer everyone believed in, there was a trap almost no one noticed. Keeping this promise came with exactly one condition. Argentina had to keep earning dollars, forever. Through exports, through foreign investment, dollars had to keep flowing in, because that was the only way pesos could be printed. Think about it. If you promised a friend, my money will always be worth exactly as much as yours, what would that actually require? Your wallet would need to hold that much value all the time. The problem was, whenever other countries hit a crisis, they let their own currency drop in value to catch their breath. This country couldn't. It had bolted itself to the dollar by law. In 1994, Mexico shook. Next, the Asian financial crisis exploded. Even Russia collapsed, and the final blow was Brazil. One day, neighboring Brazil simply let its currency's value drop by half. Overnight, this country's products became some of the most expensive in the world. Argentine cars exported to Brazil suddenly became too expensive, while Brazilian products became incredibly cheap here at home. Imagine you own a shop. The store next door suddenly starts selling everything at half price. But you can't lower yours. It's locked by law. Customers disappear. The shop closes. The staff lose their jobs. At first, it was just one small shop. But then it was 10, then 100. And eventually, it spread across the entire city. That happened everywhere, all at once, across the entire country. The fire wasn't in one factory, it was the entire national economy. While every other nation devalued its currency during that stretch, this one kept getting more expensive right alongside the dollar. And in 1999, a new president took office, Fernando de la Rúa. What he inherited was a country already quietly falling apart. But the solution this new president chose made everything far worse. Into a room already on fire, he poured gasoline. He cut civil servants' pay. He cut pensions. People spent even less, more shops closed, and more people lost their jobs. Starting in 2000, GDP posted 3 straight years of negative growth. Unemployment soared to 25%, 1 in 4 people out of work. The bigger problem was that the government could no longer borrow money at all. Credit ratings kept falling, and international markets turned their backs on the country. Winter 2001. Before the sun had even risen, people were already lining up outside the banks. Rumors were spreading that the government was about to default, and people wanted to protect their money before it happened. The government's answer was this: $250 a week, $1,000 a month. That's all you get. Imagine a lifetime of savings sitting in your account and being told at the bank door, this much a week, that's all you're allowed. Your entire life savings locked away. These people hadn't come to withdraw money. They'd come to protect their own lives, because everything they'd saved could vanish today without warning. People poured into the streets, banging pots and pans. At first, it was just a handful of people, but one by one, more joined from every side street. The clanging of metal soon covered the whole city. That night, the president climbed onto a helicopter from the palace roof. Countless citizens looked up at that moment, a nation's president lifting into the sky, fleeing his own people. Over the next 2 weeks, the presidency changed hands 5 times. The country then declared the largest sovereign default in history. We cannot pay what we owe. Overnight, the value of people's money shrank to a quarter of what it had been. Even dollar savings sitting in bank accounts were forcibly converted into the collapsing local currency. On the streets, university professors began collecting cardboard. Former bank employees started shining shoes for strangers. Unable to trust money itself anymore, people started trading goods directly. More than 8,000 barter clubs sprang up nationwide. In the 21st century, a country had regressed from a monetary economy back to bartering, something without precedent. But here's a twist almost no one saw coming. In 2003, a politician almost no one recognized became president. And somehow, this man genuinely brought the country back to life: Nestor Kirchner. His method was simple. He kept the currency weak so the country could sell more abroad. And luck helped. The world happened to be hungry for exactly what this country grew and raised. Money flowed back in. The unemployed found work again. People called him a savior. People started talking about hope again. Shops that had closed began reopening their doors, and the streets started filling with people once more. Everyone believed that this time, things would truly be different. From 2003 to 2007, Argentina grew at over 8% annually. Unemployment plunged from 25% to 8%. But let me ask you this: did that success actually last? His wife became the next president, and she took the good momentum he'd built and gambled with it. When money ran short, she simply printed more. And when prices spiraled out of control, the government hid it, announcing 10% when the real number was over 30%. Anyone who published the real number got fined. Imagine the thermometer on your fridge is broken, but it always reads just fine. You wouldn't know your food had spoiled until it was already too late. And that's exactly the trap this country walked into. The numbers kept saying everything was fine. So how would anyone know the country itself was already falling apart? Starting in 2011, currency controls began. Buying dollars as an individual required government approval. A black market for dollars inevitably formed. In 2015, a new president tried to reform things again, but he moved too fast. Within a few years, another crisis hit. The country had to request the largest bailout in the IMF's history. Then in 2019, a Peronist government returned. Argentina swung back to the old approach. And with a pandemic on top of everything, things only got worse. Right now, prices in this country are spiraling out of control once again. Argentina's annual inflation is once again above 200%. The poverty rate stands near 40%. So why does this country keep making the same mistake? It has never once truly fixed the problem. Every time the presidency changed hands, policy flipped in the opposite direction. Whenever money ran short, the choice was always the same: print more. The people never trusted the government. The government never trusted the people. And in that gap of trust, the same story kept repeating itself. 100 years ago, people here earned as much as Americans. Today, they earn less than a quarter of that. How does the richest country in the world end up here? In the end, what destroyed Argentina wasn't one president, and it wasn't one financial crisis. It was the choice to just get through today. A choice repeated for 100 years. So let me ask you this. Does something like this only happen in Argentina? But this isn't where the story ends. 2023. Argentina chose its most radical president in history. He showed up to campaign rallies carrying a chainsaw. I will tear down the state. I will abolish the central bank. People called him insane. But right now, the whole world is watching what he does next. Is he the hero who saves this country? Or just another disaster waiting to happen? That story continues in part 3.